All right, here we go. Let's wait for some people to go on. I don't have some big fancy intro, so
Oh, that's good. Either do I.
we're going to start as soon. I know we were supposed to start at 8, so I'll go 2 minutes. We're a little early.
Yeah.
That's fine.
They'll find their way.
All right, sip the caffeine then. Why we wait? Here we go. Got the notification.
Somebody's got their phone on.
That was me, actually. That's how unprofessional that I am. All right, here we go. Comments are good. All right. Here we are. Whoa, there we go. Okay, that was fast. Good evening, everyone. We are, for those of you who don't know us, I'm sure a lot more people know that gentleman there than knows the two of us. We are New Jersey Paranormal. That's Chris Darian. I'm John Ruggiero. Joining us tonight is We Are Not Worthy.
Oh,
We Are Not Worthy.
You know that's not my style.
Jason Hawes, everybody knows Taps, Ghost Hunters. Jason, thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. I greatly appreciate it.
Let me tell you a little bit about my experience with Jason Hawes. And we don't have a whole lot of time, so I'll get to all the questions in a minute. I know Jason, like the majority of people from Ghost Hunters, watched it from the beginning, loved the show. They're pioneers. Everybody kind of follows what they did in some way, shape, or form. I met Jason for the first time at our expo, New Jersey Power Unity Expo, this past September. We both met him. I had heard things about Jason in the past, some good, some bad. I judge everybody on my interaction, and I think everybody should do the same. I'll tell you what, Jason, with his fans waiting, a long line, Jason, Shari, Steve, and Dave were at the convention. Jason saw there was a long line. None of those guys, none of that team would take a break. They kept pushing forward because they wanted to meet everyone and they wanted to give everybody a chance to, FaceTime, and they stayed there. No breaks, no food. They just kept going. And Jason just kept resetting, patting me on the back, saying, okay, get the next people up there. And I take the pictures. And then at the VIP party, went out of his way to come find the two of us. We talked about plumbing, and I asked him every question I ever wanted to know. And I'll tell you, what you see is what you get, and you are the definition of that. You are real, good guy, just the opposite of what I had heard. Just humble too, man.
And I think we always need to take into consideration some people say things about individuals for hidden agendas. And so I kind of, and I'm like you, and I told you that I'm not gonna. Somebody tells me something about somebody, fine, but I want to at least meet that person, draw my own conclusion. But there's always people out there who have hidden agendas. We're gonna, say things about individuals, and it's sad. It's sad, but it's if somebody takes what somebody says and takes it as truth, well, then that's their issue, their own problem. And I think you met John. I'm one of the most straightforward people out there. It's hate me for my honesty. I mean,
there you go.
You'll never have to hate me for being a liar, because that's just not who I am.
And that's, again, what he just said is 100%. We were talking before we went live, and I was asking him questions about other things not relating to this interview and just other things in general. And again, ask a question, get an answer. It is that easy with him.
Well, I mean, right down to when we were talking about doing the interview, and I know you had said, "Hey, you want me to send you some questions?" I'm like, "No, I don't want to know what you're going to ask me, because I want to answer any question honestly, 100% honest, and I don't want to have it pre-planned or planned out. I mean, you ask me what you want to ask me, I'll answer the questions how I can answer them, and it's always been about keeping it real, and I don't think enough people are like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We're looking for answers. That's why we're in this field. And yet it just seems like the people that we deal with in this field aren't real.
Well, yeah, there's definitely you got to take some grain of salt here and there. Some people are, willing to, I guess, trying to do anything to get their names out there. I mean, that's not who we are. I mean, I turned down doing television 5 times before I finally agreed.
I know. We're going to get into all that. Satori asked, "Who is this guy?"
Satori who? His name sounds really familiar.
So we're going to run the gambit. The way these interviews are done, and you've done a million of them, we approach it from I'm a fan of all these shows. I do watch a lot of these shows, but I was a fan of your guys from the beginning. But I'm also in the field, so my interest runs the gambit as far as the whole entire from the show to just your beliefs on different things. So we'll jump in with the standard question that I'm sure you've heard a million times. I did read something on Wikipedia about this, and I guess I'm going to find out right now if it was true or not. But where did your interest in the paranormal come from?
Well, I was never really interested in the paranormal until I had an experience back when I was about 18, 19, where I was dating a girl at the time, and she was involved with a friend who was into Reiki, and yeah, I ended up having my own experience, and from there, I think it was just me trying to look for real explanations of how these things were possible. And to be honest, it seemed like there was so much regurgitated garbage out there. It was like nobody was looking. I can't say nobody, but a lot of people weren't really looking for real answers. I mean, you could go online, which was kind of new back then, and people were trying to sell you memberships to look at their pictures of orbs, or other people were trying to sell you certificates to become a certified ghost hunter.
Imagine that.
And all that stuff. And it's just, so I was one of those people where I was like, I'm not going to get my answers here. It's going to have to be hands-on. And so I started investigating. And shortly after that, I created a website, which who would have realized became the top hit paranormal website in the world. Shortly after that, I met up with Steve, and Steve and I started hanging out and investigating. And a while after that, Grant got involved. And I mean, because a lot of people don't realize I've known Steve longer than I've known Grant. So
really?
Yeah, I mean, I've got pictures of Steve, way back when.
So you didn't work with Grant like the show portrays? You guys weren't?
Well, here's all right. So I'd investigate with Grant here and there, but a lot of times Grant had a hard time getting out to investigate. But it was when we started doing the show, Steve was still a police officer at the time. So
Okay.
Steve would be running late to get to the investigations a lot because he'd be leaving work and coming in. So I started investigating with Grant. And when Steve would get there, he'd head in with Brian or whoever else. So that's where that kind of changed, because I always investigated with Steve. So it became a time restraint thing with, Steve with his job and it holding him up, that Steve and I weren't, investigating together.
So what type of investigations are we talking about early on? What were you doing?
It was mainly all residential cases.
Okay.
We'd go investigate local legends and haunts and things. But I mean, we were getting cases from all over. Originally, we were Rhode Island Paranormal Society RIPS, but we were getting cases from all over the United States. So that's why we quickly became the Atlantic Paranormal Society, and from there we created the TAPS family, which are, I mean, right now we've got like 72 groups in the United States and 14 other countries, because we get cases from everywhere. I mean, on an average day, we get 1,000 emails sent to us.
See, and I like.
1,000?
Oh yeah, I mean, we get 90 million visitors per year to the website.
Wow. And I like again, I didn't know how you got into the paranormal, and from my perspective, I know a lot of people on this field, and I talk about this all the time. You remember the X-Files, that show?
Oh yeah.
You remember Fox Mulder? He became because his sister was abducted.
Yeah.
I always say that most of the people that I meet in this field, they have that story where they lived in a haunted house, or there was something going on, or for me, it was the fear of death from a young age. I'm not raised Catholic, so for me, it was, I couldn't just believe that this is what happened and this is where we're going. I really was afraid when I lost someone finally close to me, that when the lights go out, is that it? So that's what kind of drove me into finding proof of myself that hopefully there's something beyond.
Well, and that's a big reason why people get involved in the field, is because they want to know that when they close their eyes that last time, that it's not the end, that there's something more after this. And honestly, from everything we've experienced, and through the investigations and through experiences that others have had, there is something after this. Can I tell you what it is? No, I mean, I was raised Catholic, but I can't sit here and tell you that, Jesus is real, God is real. I believe in a higher power. I believe that there's something more to this, because I just think there has to be, because if not, it doesn't make sense. But yeah, so I truly believe that there's more to it, then.
And I think with my daughter having passed away, for me, I was raised Catholic. I don't practice religion. I'm a very faithful person. I do believe in something higher. And since my daughter's passing, I think the reality for me is, how can a bond that strong be gone? How can death take something that I don't believe it can?
No,
I think it's something
right.
that continues.
Exactly. And we're all energy. And I mean, we manipulate energy every time we plug in a vacuum cleaner or a hair dryer. I mean, so it makes sense that, you know, the universe has been manipulating it since the beginning of time. So something happens with us
Yeah.
after.
Yeah, it can't all just be random. That just wouldn't. If it was, that'd be such a cruel. You know, it'd be such a joke. So, what are your beliefs as far as what happens when we pass? What do you think happens? Do you think we all get together again? Do you think it's like the fairy tale? Do you think we're energy and we just kind of like the force? We exist out there.
Has your belief kind of morphed and changed since what you do?
Hey, one question at a time. My question is
kind of all together.
But
how dare you?
It's tough because there's been so many different types of hauntings that we've come across, especially over the last, 20 some odd years. There's also been this weird time overlapping type haunt that's been showing up more and more. We'll make contact with somebody who seems to be living a normal day in their life 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So time is, so the different types of hauntings will really screw you up, because if you've got your intelligent type haunt, they're communicating after they pass, but you also have this time overlap of intelligent type haunts where they're in a day in their year and we're in our year. So it really just, I mean, it's so tough to say, because it makes me think that after we pass that we go somewhere, or
Right.
maybe we regress back to another time in our life and start it over again. And then you have your residual type haunts and things of that nature. So I definitely believe there's something after this. And, it's funny. I used to say to my kids, especially my boys when they were younger, because when kids are young, their biggest fear is, oh my God, my parents, they're going to die. And I used to tell my sons, I used to say, like, hey, you know what, when the day comes and I go, just understand that I'll be building the house and building additions on for when you guys come and meet me. And because that's what it's always been about. So I pray that we all end up back together. Because
what about past lives? You have any opinion on that sort of thing? Reincarnation, past lives?
I think there seems to be a lot of evidence to support it. I don't know, to be honest with you. It's nothing that I've really dived deep into. But there definitely seems to be evidence to support it. I mean, these people who show up now and all of a sudden they have all these memories from the past and they're able to trace that back. I mean, that's amazing. There's got to be some truth to that.
See, I heard someone one time, and I don't want to get too deep into this because there's a million questions. Someone made mention to me about like memory DNA, that like the DNA and the genes of my great grandfather or that could be passed down to where what we think is a past life, or maybe just somewhere in the DNA and in the genes. But that doesn't apply, of course, when it's a 4-year-old boy and he's claiming he's a fighter pilot from, World War II, which has happened.
Yes and no. I mean, couldn't it? I mean, genetically, you think it could be predisposed to.
You would think that's at least a reason that sounds logical in some sense, as opposed to,
we pass down our characteristics to our children. So what would be? So it wouldn't be too far fetched to sit there and think that we possibly could pass down these memories to our children and our great grandchildren.
Yeah, how many times have you heard? You're just like your grandmother. You're just like your
like
Ruby.
Someone plays with their hair a certain way, and generations further down, oh my God, there's a great grandchild that's doing that, and never seen someone do it. So it's just, does that happen? Is it part of the equation? That's what's really
believer
neat.
that we can pass those traits down. So it wouldn't be far fetched to think that we'd be able to pass some sort of memories down through our DNA.
So how did the Ghost Hunter show even come about? Because that was before, like nowadays, everybody's pitching a sizzle to try to get, they're on YouTube and they're doing whatever.
And I think that's what makes Ghost Hunter so different is we didn't pitch. So I did this New York Times article with this author, John Leland, and John came with us, and it came out on Halloween Day, but we were able to disprove this haunting. It was a medication issue, and it went out on the wire, and the story went viral. And now I had helped out on TV shows prior to this, MTV Sphere and things like that, but always behind the scenes. And with that, I mean, production companies started coming out and just asking us to do a television show, and we turned it down because we didn't think that it would translate well being on camera. And what we did, I mean, we go sit in a house for 8 to 10 hours in the dark.
Yeah, exactly.
And
We're in the dark, right? I mean, how?
Exactly. And honestly, so we turned down numerous offers. Right. And it was this one individual, Craig Pelagian, who owns Pilgrim Films. I mean, it was a tiny company back then. And Craig came and met up with us, and he's like, hey, he goes, I don't care if you catch a ghost or not. He goes, I just want to send cameras with you and record what you do. And he goes, and if you don't do it, somebody else is going to. And that was true. And we thought, how is the field going to be represented with that? I mean, we've seen a lot of shows come and go that haven't really represented the field in that positive of a light. And so we agreed to do it. We agreed to do a season, thinking it wouldn't last more than that. And I mean, geez, and who would have thought that it would have taken Sci-Fi at that point, which was, I don't know, number 6.
Now, did they have any influence? Did production come in or the network and say, no, don't do it that way? Because I heard that happens.
Nope.
They just let you guys take the reins and do whatever.
Before we even agreed to do the show, it was a thing where you guys don't have say on our investigations and how we do it. And you don't have say who's on the team and who gets removed from the team and everything else. That's done through the group. And Craig agreed to it. Because it was about, we're not going to change ourselves to be on TV. I mean, we've seen enough of that. And so it was one of those things where we agreed to do 10 episodes, figuring it wouldn't go much past that. And it took Sci-Fi, which at that point I think was number 60 or 70.
Oh, nobody even knew Sci-Fi existed.
It literally made them the number one cable channel on Wednesday nights, and it was us and Tori and our friends from MythBusters who were the highest watched cable shows.
Wow!
But that's because it filled a need. I mean, let's be honest here.
It wasn't just that. The chemistry between all that.
Oh, absolutely.
And that was a big thing too. I mean, we weren't casted together. I mean, we weren't. Yeah, where production companies now are like, hey, we'll take this person.
You
and
better believe it.
And we'll have them pretend that they're friends.
Yeah.
I mean, Steve. I got pictures of Steve with my daughter, who's 26 now, as a little baby sitting on his lap, and and Grant, and so we were all, and Brian. We were all close. We all knew each other. We had spent so much time with each other for years and years prior, because we'd been investigating since the 90s.
But you see that on the show. You see the chemistry, the whole you guys can finish each other's sentences. You just see it flow.
Family, you can tell they're family.
Because it's real.
You can tell the difference on other shows it doesn't.
It's like you've got Steve, who I've known for almost 30 years. You've got Sherry, who's been one of my close friends for 20 years. I mean, You've got Tango. Tango lived with me for years. So it's one of those things where we're such a tight family, and it's real. I mean, we truly love each other, bottom line. And that can't be faked. I mean, that no matter how you try, how people want to try to cast people back and forth. I mean, it's I think it's just the way it was. And that was a big reason why, I was asked to do the reboot of Ghost Hunters initially, and I chose not to, because they didn't want everybody. What?
We're gonna get to that.
Okay.
Don't jump in. Hey, I got questions here. And we've got 30 minutes, so we got to get through some stuff here.
Ask away.
That's the big question here that I'm even seeing people are asking on the live here. Again, as a fan watching the show, myself and everybody wondered what happened with Grant. How did it go from Ghost Hunters, all of you, to Ghost Hunter to Grant leaving Ghost Hunters, to Ghost Hunters ending, nothing happening, to Grant coming back with Ghost Hunters, you Ghost Nation, and now you coming back with Ghost Hunters?
Well, okay, so
I know that's a lot there,
no,
but
no.
a
So
lot of people wondered. I wondered that.
well, and let's just be honest. So I was initially asked to do Ghost Hunters. I turned it down because they didn't want the team. They wanted to put other people that I didn't know around me, and I didn't feel that would work. I mean, and some of those people are great. Like I'm good friends with Brian and Rochelle,
Right,
and
right.
I mean, just wonderful people. But I didn't think that would be right, especially seeing I'd worked with Dave and Steve and Sherry and all of them for so long. I mean, we had a chemistry. So I turned down doing the show. Grant decided that it was within his best interest to do the show. Which I didn't feel it would have been right. First off, I don't want to put myself up here and everybody else below me, like like I'm some superstar. That's not how it
It's
is.
a team.
Yeah, exactly. So we decided not to. So I ended up signing a deal to do Ghost Nation, which kept the team together.
Right.
And we could go do our own show. Yeah, it was under a different name. That sucked. But you know what? Hey, we were still together, and that's all that mattered. We did Ghost Nation. Grant agreed to do Ghost Hunters. The show, I guess I mean, it did okay, but it didn't do near where it should have. So A&E decided to cancel it, and Craig came to Discovery Channel, asked them if they were interested in taking Ghost Hunters back. Discovery said if Jason will take it with his team, then we'll do it. So Steve, me, Dave, Sherry, we all sat around because we were doing Ghost Nation. Ghost Nation was breaking records.
Yeah.
I mean, I went from doing Ghost Hunters, was highest watched paranormal show out there, to creating Ghost Nation, which again was shattering records.
Well,
So
when you guys, I had seen little comments from you here and there about having discussions with production, but it wasn't the right thing yet. You were kind of alluding to the fact that you kind of wanted to come back, but you wanted to wait until everything was right for you, I guess, and
That's right.
everyone else.
That's right, because I'm not first off, I want to be able to sleep at night, and I'm not going to screw over people I love dearly for anything. I mean, nothing's worth that to me.
No.
I was doing nationally syndicated radio from a studio in my house. I mean, I was living easy. So, but so we had talked with Travel, and we decided that Travel said, "Hey, you guys want to do a show? Fine." And we said, "All right, but we want to do it our way." So, and they were hands off. So we chose the production company and we ran with it. And we wanted to also show more of the investigation, what truly goes in from, the beginning straight through. And we're able to accomplish that with Nation, where we're able to show the historical research and everything that we dive deep into. And then, like I said, so the opportunity came for us to take Hunters back. We all sat around. It was a group decision. Could I have just said, "Yeah, we're going to do it"? Yeah, but that's not what it's about. It's about being part of a team and loving each other. So we sat there and we said, all of us sat around. We decided that we had created Ghost Hunters. It seemed like it was our baby. We didn't want to see it disappear the way it had. So we agreed to take the show back under the premise that we were going to run it and do it our way and take the things that we always wanted to and put into the show. So that's where we took it back, and we wish Grant the best, but I mean, he made decisions which were different than the decisions we all did as a team. So I mean, so we've all since moved on, and
I mean, it was Grant's decision to leave the show, right? I mean, that was his choice at that point. He just didn't want to do.
Are you talking back in the original?
Back on the Ghost Hunter show, the original show. Grant just decided he was done, right? And
he left for his own personal reasons, but so it was just one of those things where I know some people have asked about, will Grant be back? And honestly, no. We wish him the best, but he made decisions that we feel affected all of us that we wouldn't have made, and so we wish him the best, but we've all gone our own ways.
But I like how you're this is a teaching moment, and I hope that people who are watching this are listening to exactly what you're saying. People can move on. That doesn't mean they're disposable. And it doesn't mean that there has to be animosity.
Or the paranormal trauma and the war and the crap that goes along with it.
Well, that's I mean, is there is there definitely people? Are there some hard feelings?
Right.
Come on, let's be honest. It's I feel decisions were made that affected people I love dearly. So
Right.
yeah, so
Right.
but I wish
You're handling this and you're showing people that there is we all have beefs with each other. Someone stepped on my toes, someone insulted, someone did something that hurt my feelings or actually created great issues and compromised what we do. But the fact is that you're talking and you're showing people there's a way to handle this in a right way and how to talk about it.
If I saw Grant tomorrow, could I walk up and give him a hug? 100%.
Right.
Grant, I love him like a brother. He was a very big part of my life. I mean, I taught him to be a plumber and everything else. I mean, he rode with me and he lived with me, and so forth. It's just like
relationships change. I mean, it happens in all walks of life.
And I had to sit there and think that these people that are the closest to me, they just mean too much to me, and
Right.
and so yeah, and that's pretty much why I know Grant had said at one point somebody had sent me something about he wasn't asked to come back. No, he wasn't. And if somebody gets a hair across their ass about that, I wish them the best. But honestly, none of us have any plans to ask him to come back.
Right.
We've all made our own decisions, and since we've taken different roads. So love, but moving on.
Yeah. One of the things too, going back to the original Ghost Hunter shows and about you guys being a pioneer of this whole genre, I don't think anybody ever really heard the word debunked before Ghost Hunters
Yeah, I know
kind of brought it to the public.
I mean, it's funny because we had initially started shooting down. We were one of the first people out there that were like shooting down orbs. It's like, hey, I can create orbs by slapping a pillow in the dark and taking a picture.
I mean, I tell everybody, I get videos like you get videos, and everybody. I tell anybody, you put an IR camera in any home, in any building, you're gonna see an orb. People send me videos of I see socks, and they're on the bed, and their cat runs across the bed, and they. What do you think that is?
You have to understand how much hate we got on us because we attacked orbs, because we sat there and said, this is what orbs are. I mean, we were attacked viciously, especially by some of those websites who used to charge you a membership to look at their pictures of orbs.
I could imagine.
How dare you take away my haunting?
Exactly. So, but it was always about not caring if somebody liked us, caring if they knew the truth.
Right.
And I think that's what it was about. If you're going to hate me for being honest, well, then hate me for being honest. But I'm not going to, I mean, geez, I'm the same guy who could be out. I've written 6 books. They've all, my books have been New York Times bestseller. I could have written a bunch of other books and blown cases out of proportion and did this. And I've had options to do movie deals, but take cases and blow them way out of proportion. And just not me. I'm not going to sell my soul or sell bullshit to financially benefit myself and screw other people. It's not worth that for me. It's not.
And but that's yet another thing I respected about them. You didn't get the feeling every week that wherever they went was haunted. You know what I mean? You just didn't you knew it could go either way. You knew they could explain away everything to the homeowner, whether it's the air conditioning, the heating, or something natural, explainable. Not everything is paranormal, and they said that best.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the only thing that I regret from the past years is that we had final say on what cases we investigated.
Okay.
But Sci-Fi, of course, had final say on what episodes aired.
Oh.
So we could film 100 episodes, and they would only take the ones that had paranormal activity. So in the beginning, it wasn't like that. Okay. Because I mean, we were only doing 13 episodes a year or whatever, and then all of a sudden we're doing 26 episodes a year plus a 6-hour live show. So we're going nonstop. So Sci-Fi was literally, they were able to sit there and say, well, they caught stuff on this episode, so we're going to air this one. They didn't on this, so yeah, let's just put that to the side.
Yeah.
So they were only airing the ones that we caught activity in the later years, and that kind of upset us because it's the fact of the matter is, if we're able to I love being able to debunk a haunting. I mean, I think that's some of the best. You have teaching activity, but if you're able to debunk it, show it, and I think that's the most important thing. So I think that kind of started hurting my relationship with the network on that. It's just because you can only take so much. You're like, geez, man, we just were able to figure out that other case. It had nothing to do
Yeah.
with paranormal. Why aren't we airing it? And but as a network, they had final say on that.
But that's a good point that you mentioned as well. When you're talking about the reality of getting into this field, and I'm not putting anybody down, but a lot of people think you just put a black shirt on, create a logo, and buy some t-shirts and a hat, and you're in it. You're doing it. Now, yeah, you could go into cemeteries and you could do different things where you could try to learn, but when you're dealing with private residential cases, and again, I want to get your opinion on this. Not everything is paranormal. There are a lot of cases where there are other issues involved, and they may not just be issues with the home. It could be issues with the person, whether it's medication, a mental. I mean, you've had to deal with a lot of that. How did you guys handle, or do you handle, cases like that? Do you counsel? Do you find yourself doing a lot of counseling, or?
That's a great question. And yeah, a lot of times you will find cases where people are over medicated, under medicated, self medicated, mixing prescriptions, which create problems, dealing with internal family issues, whether it's physical, sexual, alcohol abuse, things of that nature. And so these factors do come into play. And that's a big thing. So when somebody invites us into their house, and people need to remember that there's a side of TAPS that isn't televised. I mean, we handle cases that are off television, which fall under confidentiality agreements. We get sent to do preliminary reports for religious organizations. So when somebody asks us to come in and investigate or come in and find out what's going on, they're opening their lives up to us. So when we get there, yeah, we're going through your book and your movie collection, but we're going through your prescriptions. We're going through other things like that. Because if you want us to truly figure out what's going on, then you need to be 100% open and transparent with us. So those factors come into play. So, and a lot of people aren't prepared for that. We show up at their house and they're like, whoa, no, you want to know what I'm taking for prescriptions? You want to know if I drink?
Yeah,
I do. And if you can't tell me this, then I can't help you. So, but we also we have counselors, we have people in the medical field that are a part of the group. And the best thing about TAPS is our reach. I mean, we have our hands in so many different areas, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's government officials, whether it's medical field. I mean, our reach is far, and I think that's important, and that's where the TAPS family comes in, because I mean, again, we have 72 groups throughout the United States and 14 other countries, and we do TAPS family reunions. I mean, we could have 700-800 people show up because they're all part of the group. And the best thing about it is TAPS family as well as TAPS. We all, it's to be part of the TAPS family. You run a criminal background check on all your members every year, because I don't want to send somebody to your house that might have a criminal background. And that's a big thing. And Chris Perkins and Marie Cuff, who are part of the TAPS family management, they check and they keep on top of that. So, and a lot of people don't realize what goes into that. So, I mean, part of the TAPS family groups, there are criminal background checks and all these factors coming in. And a lot of them are, whether it's law enforcement or the medical field and things of that nature. So our reach is far. And I mean, it sounds funny, but I've heard people refer to it as a TAPS mafia, which is just silly because of how far it reaches.
You're not even Italian.
But here's the thing.
German.
You list all of these things that you have to do this. This isn't a hobby. This is serious. I wish this was accessible when I was a teenager, because I became suicidal at 17 because of what was happening. We went to a psychic medium who totally traumatized me. We went to the Catholic Church that said it was my fault. I was a bad person. This is why this is happening. There was nowhere.
I said that.
Funny. There was nowhere to turn. And this is why he talked me into joining the group, because I wanted nothing to do with it. Once I finally got this shut down, I didn't want to deal with any of this anymore. There's a responsibility, I think, that most teams don't understand when they put on that shirt, that you're dealing with people's mental well-being, their social well-being, their psychological well-being. There's so many things involved on the human level that if you're not prepared to deal with all aspects of issues with a human being and being compassionate and understanding that you've got to have more than just yourself to help somebody in a haunting. you're actually creating a worse situation for those people.
You could easily.
Absolutely. And a lot of people don't realize, I mean, first off, TAPS existed long before the show.
Right.
And before it was TAPS, it was Rhode Island Paranormal Society. But the TAPS family has also existed long before the show. These aren't things that were put into place since we've been doing television. These were things that were already existing and moving ahead, which helped, I think, show that we weren't a group that was put together to make television. This was something that we truly did, we truly loved, and what we were truly involved in. And I think that's also a big reason why the show was such a success, was because people saw the realness in it, the sincerity of these guys aren't doing this just for television. They're doing this because they love to do this, and they're looking to help. And the fans are the reason the show has been such a success. I mean,
well, you guys set that bar. I mean, from being on and doing what you did with the debunking and showing what it was like to do an investigation and the process in which you do it, to being friends and being together and that coming through, everybody kind of, I think, judges all paranormal shows in some respect against, ghost hunters. It was, again, you guys were the Beatles.
Well,
you really were. Let's get to another. I just want to reiterate the point that Jason mentioned really quick about resources. I preach that a lot, where if you're in this field, it really should be more than just the collective of whatever the group is. We have a psych nurse on our team.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a guy who knows a lot about construction, but we do have resources, like you said, law enforcement, religious, figures that we could, psychic mediums. We have a lot of different people, witches, that we could call on for many, many different issues. If for anything else, just to counsel if we need it, to be able to relate on any level. It's part of doing what we do. Here's one that I wondered about you too. When we talk about spirit communication, right, and paranormal research, I've always wondered this because, again, how many years I've been doing. Do you have any theories about why is it some spirits can throw a chair across the room and yet others are barely able to, have a whisper on a recorder? Do you have any kind of theory about why some can and some can't? Or
well, as for throwing chairs across, honestly, what we've seen, and I can't say it's 100%, is that human spirits seem very limited in what they're able to do. Moving small objects, which not throwing a chair across the room seems a little excessive. But yeah, you're moving small objects. It's the tug on the clothes, or the pull on the bed sheet, or the calling the name, which is the most terrifying to people. I mean, if something's starting to be thrown across the room, I think then it needs to be looked at as possibly a different type of thing. But then again, I mean, you get these people who preach demonics and demons and this, that, the other thing. And let's be honest, I do cases, we get sent in to write up reports on so-called demonic and inhuman type hauntings. And 99.9% of those cases have nothing to do with the paranormal. I mean, they have to do with, first off, and I hate to, don't take this wrong, but the only people who ever end up possessed seem to be people who are very religious. So that tells you, don't be religious and you won't become possessed. You're covered. So, but
you jumped ahead to question number 20 down there.
And so what's it? So the next logical, do you believe in demons?
But that was the question. What are your thoughts on?
I believe in human and inhuman type hauntings.
Right.
Now, an inhuman is something that's never walked the earth in human form. Now, can I sit here and say it's a demon or a devil? No. I mean, I believe that there's things that aren't human. I mean, geez, look, there's things all over the planet that aren't human. So I can't tell you what they are. Some of them seem to have some malicious intent. Is it towards just humans? It could be towards other things as well. It's not like we're able to see it all. But so I believe in human and inhuman type haunts. But now people need to take into consideration an inhuman haunt from a religious aspect. If you believe in demonics and things of that nature, well, then you also have to believe that an inhuman, angelic would fall under inhuman. Elementals would fall under inhuman. So anything that's never walked the earth in human form. But again, I can't sit here and tell you that from a religious standpoint, I believe in a demonic or demons or devils. I believe that there's negative type entities out there. I'm just not gonna. I'm not somebody to tell you that they work for Satan or
See, and I think that turns a lot of people off in a way, because I've dealt with that a lot, because we talk all the time. Again, my siblings went to Catholic school, and they were all raised, my mother must have took one look at me and said, it's not going to stick with him, and didn't bother. But demons, I don't really believe in demons. I don't know why, because I guess because I don't follow religion all that much, but it really is way out there to think that there are, these inhuman evil entities from hell.
But I think that the whole purpose of this is that you've got to put Hollywood's determination on what we're dealing with and what we do.
Well, let's go along those same lines too. Let's go the other end of that.
Yeah.
Do you believe that a person, is capable of quote unquote crossing a spirit over?
I guess it would fall under what you believe over to be.
Well, moving on to the next, if we all believe that there's,
I believe that. I
think that's what people mean when they say that. They believe you're.
Yeah, I see. I believe that there's people out there who are able to connect. So I believe in sensitives. Now, here's the thing. So if you go to 1,000 so-called haunted locations, and out of 1,000, 100 of them are haunted, your body tends to remember how you felt at those 100 that were haunted. So now, does that make you sensitive? No, but it makes you more sensitive than somebody who's never had that opportunity.
I agree.
So now, can that be strengthened? Yeah. So I believe that there's sensitives out there. I think it's a scary area, because there's a lot of people out there who like to financially, make money off of things and hurt individuals. I've dealt with cases where people have been being sold $5,000 candles to keep these evil presence out. So I've seen a lot of charlatans. I believe that there's sensitives who can make contact with something that's there and get them to move on. Now, crossover.
What does that mean?
But to move on, to sit there and say, hey, you know what? This family is trying to move on with their life. Yeah. You're not welcome here. This is their home. So please go somewhere else. Now that entity could go next door or whatever. Right. But so I believe that possibility is there. I can't tell you that. I don't believe for a second that a psychic can sit there and say, or a sensitive can sit there and say, cross on to the other side, move on to heaven. I don't think that's possible.
Have you ever worked with mediums at all? Ever?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've got a lot of friends. Chip Coffey's a very good friend. Chris Fleming's a good friend as well.
So you do believe that they get messages, whether they're images, or do you believe that is?
I believe that sensitives are able, that, like I said, that there are people who are sensitive who are able to pick up on things that others are not.
Right.
So, and I do believe that sometimes that they're able to get messages and pick up on things. Right. And sometimes it makes you wonder if they're picking up on this time overlap type haunts. If for whatever reason they're able to hear these voices better than us, and move on with it. But yeah.
Have you ever had a reading of any kind, or?
I have. Yeah. It's
Leave it there.
I've had one, and I know a lot of mediums. I do, and some of them have done and said things that really I can't explain. That this is true, but I've had one or two readings, and they were way off. And I won't judge all mediums on that.
And I've had the same. I mean, I've had a sensitive walk up to me at one point and tell me that the energy they saw coming off of me was the first time that they've ever seen this type of energy coming off of anybody, and so it's like, all right, well, great, thanks, wish you the best.
And this is what I always tell people and warn people about.
Oh boy.
When my daughter did pass away, I was contacted by so many psychic mediums that said, we have a message for you from your daughter. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm good.
And that's the thing. I mean, it's sad when that many reach out, but I can tell you, so I'm in my office right now, my studio, and when my father passed away. Now, my father had been dealing with cancer and MS for 25, 26 years. I mean, they said he wouldn't last more than 3 years. That's tough son of a bitch still went 25 years.
Wow.
And when he had a stroke, and we had him in a nursing home down the road, and he had a stroke, and they said he wasn't going to last more than 24 hours. And that tough son of a bitch went 3 weeks because he was just stubborn. And after he passed, and I was still doing Beyond Reality Radio. Now there's a door on my office, and it's a piston controlled door, so it's forced closed. It takes a lot of force to open it up. So I was sitting here getting ready to do the radio show, and all of a sudden that door opened inward. It's the first time, only time it's ever happened. And my father was a big guy. I mean, he gave off this presence, and I swear to you, I felt him. And so it was one of those amazing things. And so I sat there like 5 minutes before the show, having a conversation with what I believe to be my father. And, and it was a very powerful thing. Now, so I believe, does that mean that I was sensitive at that point, or just he came to see? I mean,
the connection at that point in that time was happening. So I had the similar thing with my mom real quick. When my mom passed, I kept praying for a sign. I know so many people dreams and other things. I kept praying, and I knew my mom would reach me if she could. And I was waiting for friends to bring me some food. She wasn't home. She was out doing something. I kept looking up at the stars, and I'm looking at the North Star, and I'm like, why am I looking at that? I know that's not really heaven, and what I'm seeing is a star. It's not anything. And I was getting frustrated with myself that I was just that desperate that I was looking up. And my friends came, dropped off the food. I went to bed. She came home late. She was out with our friends. I woke up in the morning. She was still sleeping. There was a bag from a friend of ours who's on our team with a ceramic circle that had a poem about stars. And then there was a plaque that she named the star after my mother. I almost choke up and cry because I know that was my mom in whatever way she knew how. She somehow influenced that chain of events to let me know, hey, I'm still here around you. And I felt so good after that,
Absolutely. I mean, when I go, I plan to stay around and haunt the hell out of my children's spouses. Just
so would know better than you how to do that.
If my daughter's husband's giving me hard time,
I'll
haunt the hell out of him. But so it's one of those things where you just, of course, you want to hang around because you want to make sure that they're okay.
Of course. You do. And if there's any way to do that, we will. That's the whole idea. Let's talk about another thing that is mentioned a lot in the paranormal field, quote unquote protection. Do you say any kind of prayer before an investigation, after an investigation?
I was gonna say, man, I guess.
Do you wear anything? Sorry, you're still watching. That wasn't me. That was.
So my belief when it comes down to protection is I've never wanted to put myself in a predicament that I feel vulnerable if something's taken away from me. Okay. So I've grown up in I was a martial artist, fought in tournaments and martial art fights for many, many years. And I always believed in chi, the power in you. So I've always believed that the strongest thing you can ever carry with you is inside of you. That's how you can protect yourself. I never want to go in with a cross or a rabbit's foot or holy water and it's taken away. Now I feel vulnerable. So I've just always believed that your power to protect yourself is within you.
Yeah, because we give the other things power.
Yeah, honestly.
And that's what I tell everybody when they ask when we do what we do. It's like we are the ones that empower anything that we used to begin with.
Well, and if you rely on it so much, I mean, think of it. It might sound strange to say, but I mean, if all you've ever used is a knife for your entire life in fights, and somebody takes that knife away from you, what do you got?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's one of those things where, I've always felt that your strength comes from inside you to protect yourself.
I agree.
Yeah, and I always, for me personally, I always want to go into any situation as sort of an open channel. I don't know how else to word that, but I want to be open to.
You want all the experience.
Yeah, if the client is experiencing A, B, and C, I want to go in there just as an open channel to see if I can experience any of it or
Absolutely.
all of it. I mean, that's the way I go into it.
And that's why I'm not going in and like, trying to instigate with this thing and get it all heated, because eventually I have to leave, and that poor person has to be, still staying in that house after I've left.
So let's talk about pet peeves within the field. Do you have any? If so, what are they?
Pet peeves in the field. Some of the these apps that I see being, created. It's like Ghost Radar and things.
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah,
you mean pre-programmed?
Yeah, or certain voice systems that actually have words that are purposely programmed into them that they use on investigations. Yeah, I think that's my biggest pet peeve. And people always ask me what my favorite piece of equipment is, and it might sound funny, but my favorite piece of equipment is common sense.
Yeah,
it really is. And
I'll never have that one. Damn
it. Well, I think that's the most important piece of equipment that anybody can have for an investigation.
All right. Besides that, what is your favorite piece of equipment?
Favorite piece of equipment besides common sense, I'd have to, I love thermal. I love audio recorders, especially if I get direct responses to specific questions that I ask, things of that nature. I mean, right now we're working with some people on some infrasound systems that'll be able to
that idea a lot.
Cover different frequencies,
yeah.
And that's what it's about. Is just constantly trying to push this field forward with technology.
I like that idea a lot, because I was when I get bored, I look and I research different things, and I was thinking about the sonar, when they drop down into the ocean for whale, communication or sea, what would make us so naive to think that there are different channels and frequencies that as humans we're not capable of picking up if they are generated.
Well, it's funny you bring up sonar, and actually two pieces of equipment that we've been using, and you'll see them on the season, is a sonar.
So mark that down. Jason Hawes stole that from me for the show. When you see it on the episode, right here.
How do I go back with it?
Don't give him any ideas. This house is a science lab every day with this guy. You have no idea. This guy doesn't know the term off.
No, I don't. You want to ask your question? We're going back and forth. This is what we do when we interview someone. She had this one question when we were going back and forth, and I was asking about
briefs.
This is the one. So prepare yourself.
Why prepare him?
Boxers or briefs? No.
Boxer briefs.
No. What is the one thing that you could tell everybody out there that they probably would be surprised about you?
Oh, geez.
I know it's hard, but again, sometimes we do tend to keep, or even something unusual, like if you collect something that people wouldn't be aware of, or you have a hobby that somebody wouldn't be aware of, anything. Maybe your special food.
I always put myself out there. Yeah, I'm of course I'm a big fisherman, jet ski guy, boater. I do woodworking. I love woodworking. My whole garage is a wood shop. I own a lot of guns. I love to shoot. I've grown up shooting.
That's good to know. They won't cross your property line.
Satori was like second place. I mean, if she was a little higher, she would have gone Junior Olympics for shooting.
Oh, wow.
So, she said you remember anything. I don't know how he remembers things.
That's
just being a dad, Satori.
I don't know how he remembers.
That's just being a dad. We forget nothing.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because my kids and the wife, and don't take it wrong, but they've called me Rain Man in the past because my ability to remember every lyric of every song, especially from the 90s and the 80s.
Yeah, I'm like that too with lyrics.
No, but I can tell you a lot about people.
She remembers names and people, like uncanny ability.
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I'm a firm believer. I didn't have anyone that I could turn to talk to. So I do believe if somebody needs to talk to you, even if it's a stranger, what does it hurt to take a few minutes to listen to what they have to say?
And somebody just asked what Satori's name means. Now, I named Satori. Satori was 100% mine. And but the original yin and yang was Zen and Satori. So Satori meant infinite strength and inner strength and infinite wisdom. So Yeah, so a lot of people don't realize that before there was
Wow.
Union Gang.
She's got a lot to live up to.
It's
You
Dennis
go, girl.
So Satori's name is perfect for her, and it's a Buddhist word. So, but yeah.
So like the Tom Brady of the paranormal, how long do you foresee yourself? Is TV something that you, for the foreseeable future, you're interested in continuing on with Ghost Hunters on TV? Do you have a number in your head? I want to do this many seasons, and then.
I mean, I'm going to investigate the paranormal for as long as as I physically can. Whether cameras are on me or not.
Right.
So, as long as I'm being portrayed in the way I want to be portrayed, and I'm in control of the show, then they
You're
can
content.
follow me, and we'll do the show for as long. And that's the best thing. I got to be honest with Discovery and Travel and everybody and Pilgrim is they don't put their hands into it.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I mean, we do the shows. I watch the cuts. I say this needs to be
Wow.
put in there,
God,
and
you're
this
lucky.
needs, and it gets put in. And so we've
like
got
that.
a phenomenal production crew. Nobody putting their hands in, nobody trying to pressure anything, and we just do it our way. And I think that that's the most important.
And then just for like, because we do have to wrap it up with you.
Yeah, he's got another. Jason was awesome.
Yeah,
to
but
do
I
this
want
because he's
to
got something else
ask
to
real
do.
quick that for everybody that's out there watching, what would be your advice to people who actually are thinking about going in and doing an investigation at somebody's private residence?
Well, first off, you just always understand you never know who's on the other side of that door. I mean, I've literally had to, there's no joke, I've had to hold somebody down with my foot on their head while the police have come. So, because you never know. I mean, but always go in taking what they're saying with a grain of salt. Not that they're purposely misleading you, but there will be those that do. But just understand that their perception of what happened might be very different than how it truly happened.
Right.
So you need to take everything they say with a grain of salt and just look for the real answers. I think that's the most important thing.
Jason, I can't thank you enough, man. I mean, you've been great since I met you, and even talking to me beforehand and working this out so we could do this. Really, I'm happy I met you. You are the real deal, and I look forward to hanging out with you again in July. Jason will be there with the rest of the Ghost Hunters.
And people are asking, where can I get your books?
Oh, well, I mean, they can look them right up on Amazon and stuff
yeah.
and so forth. But and so I think Satori will be there too, won't she?
She will be with Cody. So, yeah.
Yes, they're going to be on their special
It'll be
room.
really, really cool. But thank you again, Jason.
Guys, love to you all, and thanks for everybody who tuned in. And we'll talk soon, guys. So stay safe out there. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And see you soon. All right.
Okay. Take care.
You. Have a great night, guys.
Remove Jason from the feed here. All right, guys. You said it couldn't happen. You didn't think it could happen. I didn't think it could happen. But Jason is the real deal, man. And that's just not here with this interview. You know what? There's us just doing this. Him and I have talked on the phone. We talked right before we came on about something very personal and that's going on with me.
Just a very honest guy.
Just good guy, honest guy. And we were fortunate to have him. Thank you guys for watching. We will be back probably later in the week. We're going to be doing a live investigation Saturday night at the Barron Arts Center here live, 8:00 Saturday night. Live investigation with New Jersey Paranormal. After that, next week, next Tuesday, John Zaffis will be our guest here.
Woo.
Again, another guy that I look up to and I can't wait to talk to again. And hopefully you'll have some of his haunted objects. But if you are joining us, check out the live investigation on Saturday. Check out some more live feeds. And thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Stay safe.
Stay safe. Be kind.
Take care, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks for watching. And if I could just find the button, I will shut this off.